welcome everyone back to the Boiling Point, episode 6, the tag team requirement. We are first going to pay homage to our a wrestler we just recently lost, the Road Warrior Animal. He was second of the Legion of Doom, so that means we have officially lost both Legion of Doom members. So the first part of our podcast is going to be to that, and of course, if we're talking about wrestling, I have to have my senior wrestling correspondent, Curtis Oneski, rejoin us on the show.
How's it all go? How's it going, everybody? Rest in peace to the Road Warriors.
They are wrestling in the great big ring in the sky now.
They are reunited and putting on the great shows up there. Just this year, man. This year can just take it.
Yes.
Take it and run the hell away with it and get it right the hell out of here.
Absolutely.
A lot of losses in the wrestling community this year. Road Warrior Animal, just the latest in a list of devastating blows that 2020 has dealt us all. Just so many great matches that the Road Warriors put on throughout the years, throughout their storied history.
Long
NWA,
history.
WWF, WCW, back into the WWE. Just long history, storied matches. They brought a lot of much needed, especially in their heyday. They brought a lot a much needed muscle to the tag team division when they were there. Guys usually their size were very much pushed as main star guys. This were the guys that big,
You're all right.
that athletic, that they were able to do a lot of the top
bodybuilder, standard bodybuilder like a Hulk Hogan.
Very much so, but they also had an agility that Hogan never possessed. They did some of the top rope moves, they did some more flashy stuff, and a lot of times those two, you get those two stats, those two factors in a wrestler. You want to put him on the main stage. You want to put him on a world championship path or on an IC title path, a mid-card title path. But these two were very devoted to tag team wrestling. They were, I obviously I'm not behind the scenes with them, but I don't know if it was a devotion to each other as tag team competitors, as brothers, as lifelong friends, or if it was just their overall love for tag team wrestling, which a lot of these guys, you see it a lot more coming back now a lot of days. That the wrestlers, they just prefer to be a tag team, to work with, 4 competitors in the ring instead of just 2. There's a lot more things you can do. There's a lot more technical things you can do. Big pops you can do for the crowd and stuff like that that's just not possible in a one-on-one match.
Yeah. You're absolutely right about that. They were very devoted to tag team wrestling. Not very often in their careers did they have any kind of singles competition beyond setting up a storyline that they would have.
One of them was injured for a short period of time.
Yes, they did have a few injuries here and there. The WWE did try out a few members to try and add to the Legion of Doom. That never really worked out.
Never really worked. It was just those two. Those two were the heart of that
They had a special
team.
chemistry.
Exactly.
They had something special in the ring.
And I think that's why they stayed together throughout their entire career. Through the WWE, WCW. I'm not sure if they ever appeared in ECW. I would imagine not.
No, I don't believe that they did.
The NWA days when they started, but. They stayed together throughout their entire career, and that's I don't want to say it's super rare. You have Rock and Roll Express that stayed together pretty much throughout their entire career. You have DX that throughout their entire career rejoined and fused and brought out together, but really to just stay together with each other throughout their entire career through multiple organizations like that is not something that really has been ever been done before, really, since, besides maybe the Rock and Roll Express.
Yes. Now I've been looking for their tag team stats so that I could give you like I did with
some numbers, a little bit of a breakdown.
Yeah, but unfortunately I'm having trouble finding something that's a good source and a reliable source to give me their full stats. The one thing that I can tell you about them is that they were one of only at most 3 teams. I'm about to look that up, but they were one of only a very few teams that held the AWA, the NWA, the WCW, and the WWF, because that's what it was called at the time, tag team titles throughout their career. There's only been, I think the Steiners are the only other team that have that on their list.
That have gotten all 4,
yeah. The Dudleys
that would
don't even
sense.
have. The Dudleys have 3 of them, but they were never in the AWA.
AWA, yeah, they never did any AWA. Now, if you replaced AWA with ECW, the Dudleys very much have something similar going on.
Yes.
But,
yeah.
not to take away. We'll get into the Dudleys, but we're talking about the LOD right now. Especially during the heyday in their 80s, the spiked big collars, or the spiked big shields, the shoulder pads,
the Mad Max,
the Mad Max attitudes,
had their theme off of.
The face paint, the Road Warrior with that iconic what a rush,
absolutely,
just the whole package, especially during their heyday in the 80s, the early 90s. I mean, they came back several times throughout the 2000s, WCW and WWE once everything was bought out, but really their heyday, their best matches, the best runs they had were in the 80s and the early 90s, and they not only did they just fit the tone of that era of wrestling and honestly of society. We were very much into that look, into the big mohawks and the dark face paint. It was very much going on everywhere, and they tapped into that as a team, and their gimmick spoke to it, and it absolutely worked for the two guys. They were big enough and intimidating enough to pull this off and make it look convincing, because you can't pull that look off with a Marco Stunt in the group or anything like that. You gotta have two badasses, and
they were and their finisher, the Doomsday Device.
Mm-hmm.
Animal lifts him up onto the shoulders, and then Hawk delivers that flying clothesline, and that
straight
was
off the top of the turnbuckle.
When they were you're talking about in the 80s and even a little bit into the early 90s. I mean, tag team moves, dual tag team moves weren't exactly a norm.
No,
for anything. And also, that was pretty. I mean, the top rope moves weren't seen a whole lot in the 80s too. I mean, that's why Macho Man's elbow drop became so iconic.
Well, and I think the breaking of kayfabe, the growing up of the wrestling audience, the realization of the showmanship behind it all, really made for a lot of that. Gave really a lot of room for a lot of that to resolve, because then at that point, everybody understands the referee's in there playing part of the match too. He's got just as big as a role in the match as the wrestlers do.
Yes, absolutely.
Back before kayfabe was broken, before Vince McMahon went on Monday Night Raw and told America, that hey, this is pretty much scripted. The referee? It was hard to get the referee to not count somebody out for that. They were a lot more about counting out when you made the tags. You were supposed to get out right away, and the 5 count was the 5 count.
Yes.
Disqualification. But once you broke kayfabe, once you could play a little bit more with the referee rules, the big tag team rule, the big tag team moves became a lot better. You've got your manager over there distracting the referee, and then the tag team can go to work, get these big moves off without having a reason to disqualify him.
Yes.
So we're at the point in AEW now, it's a straight up 10-second count in AEW now. They encourage the big tag team moves, which is something I think they do absolutely beautifully. It's something I really encourage them to do and like seeing. Those big moves, those big setups for the crowd. Some people call the Young Bucks spot monkeys, and I can understand that. They do set up those big spots, but you can't deny that the crowd loses their mind every time it happens.
I mean, nowadays
we're here to be entertained.
Yeah, nowadays with those big spots, as you're calling them, I mean, you have with the wrestlers doing the kind of things that they're doing, flying off the top rope and twisting and turning.
Mm-hmm.
You need to have those spots in order for it to be safe. So I don't mind these spots, as you call it.
That's a lot of what I see online of people that have criticism with AEW. That's the number one criticism I see online and on 4chan and stuff like that is a lot of people complain, and that's a lot of spot monkey stuff. They put big spots on where they've got 6 guys catching one dude that's jumping off.
And, who else were big spot monkeys is the WCW cruiserweights.
Absolutely. I mean, and I think
that was some of the most entertaining show. That's what I think that WCW had over the WWF or WWE at that point was people doing that type of maneuvers.
No, and I think it's a lot more entertaining. I think
it takes athleticism. Even if kayfabe is dead. We know that it's all storylines and stuff like that. But the athleticism of going into the ring and doing some of the things that they do, that's what some of the entertainment.
I mean, I'm definitely not jumping over 3 ropes while doing a 360, 180 backwards, flip. It takes
through the middle rope.
Well, I think I could do a middle tope suicida, not a tope, a mid-a suicida. But no, even though you know in the back of your mind always that, you know, kayfabe might be dead in the back of your mind, I think it's part of the fun of watching wrestling is being able to suspend the disbelief.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you go to a movie.
Exactly. You go to a movie. I mean, you watch an Avengers movie. You know, Iron Man's flying around in a metal suit made out of metal. You know, it's the same thing. I'm here to be entertained.
Yep.
And I believe that dropping the kayfabe, doing the move that Vince did, you know, it was the great thing that allowed wrestling to evolve what it is today. You know, WWE went one way with it, where, you know, they pretty much suck now, but then you get companies that do it right, and it's an entertaining experience to say the least.
Yep. Let's give you a couple of stats here. I don't have all their title stats.
Throughout all the different companies, I can imagine that's hard to scramble everything together. They were the champions in all 4 that I named. They have possibly up to 20 different championship reigns. I absolutely believe that.
They headlined Survivor Series in 1991, which for a tag team to
headline any major pay-per-view.
Yeah, pay-per-view that's.
It just goes to show you, you know, when they were in their heights, it was huge. You know, half the crowd out there would be out there in the big shoulder pads, and especially whenever they went to Raider Nation, whenever WWE went to Oakland, that stadium was packed with nothing but LOD heads.
Yeah, they also did wrestle in Japan and New Japan Pro Wrestling, and then of course they debuted with Paul Ellering, or at least early in their career they had Paul Ellering, which was the 3rd member of the Legion of Doom, their manager. He was the guy that came down with the newspaper all rolled up.
See, I never really dug them with a manager.
But if you're going to pick somebody, if you actually go back and look at the old stuff, Paul Ellering fits with the Legion of Doom perfectly. He wears sunglasses, he's got a bald head, he's got the biggest, I mean, if you were beating a dog with this newspaper, you could go to jail for animal cruelty. That's the kind of rolled up, it's like a full-on New York Times newspaper. It might be 2 of them that he's got rolled up, and, you know, that was his weapon too. I mean, you hit somebody in the head with that. I don't care who you are. It might get your attention at least. But yeah, Paul Ellering, he was the 3rd member. Of course, he was only there with him a little bit at the beginning. The Road Warriors, Legion of Doom had
they weren't
a long
really
career after him as well.
They didn't really need a manager. You know, a lot of times the manager's there to be the mouthpiece for the team. Those guys were good on the mic. They were more than
good on the mic.
There really wasn't a need for them to have a long-term manager because they were more than capable of handling their mic work by themselves.
Yep. Yes, they were. They were very, and then they were one of the few people who didn't need to. They would talk about their match straight and to the point, and then it was good. They just delivered it good. They had good delivery for something just very simple.
And you know, as I was doing my research for coming here and doing this with you, I was you know, watching a lot of backstage interviews and, you know, documentary clips on the WWE Network, and I was finding some, you know, just some things that the superstars had said about these guys. And you know, you run the gambit. Anybody from, you know, The Undertaker to Stone Cold Steve Austin, Coco Beware, I mean, Macho Man Randy Savage. These guys were apparently really great guys behind the scene too. Yeah. They weren't big drama heads. They were all about making their, you know, working the business, working the ropes, keeping, you know, doing it safe, but putting on a great show. And apparently behind the scenes, they were just really great guys. You know, there was a lot of wrestlers that tweeted out and put out social media posts about, you know, different stories. I think Undertaker put out a very nice eulogy, told a story, and just you know, just to see it, to watch a lot of these wrestlers that we grew up, you know, watching, and as they're getting older, we're seeing the health effects that these guys go throughout their whole career, catching up to them in old age. And I mean, for every Ric Flair you have, you know, 2 or 3 Macho Man Randy Savages,
or 5 or 6s.
You know, or
Ric Flair is really one of the only ones left from that era. Really, I mean, Arn
Hogan's still around too. Yeah, but they got out. They got out earlier than Flair did. I mean, Tully and Arn stopped wrestling in their mid-30s.
Yeah, and Flair lost both of his sons, so it makes sense that he's still in wrestling for his daughter.
Yeah.
Charlotte Flair, who is an amazing.
Absolutely,
woman wrestler in the women's division of the WWE. She is phenomenal.
She is absolutely phenomenal, and honestly, I think it's kind of a shame that the WWE has already signed her for like a 20-year contract or something like that. I'd love to see what she could do outside of the shadow of Vince.
Yeah.
But
how can you turn that down?
Yeah, I mean, she's Charlotte Flair, and I'm sure they paid her so much money.
They weren't going to let another Flair get away.
Absolutely not.
They could never get Ric Flair, and that was because of a lot of different reasons. Ric Flair didn't want to go to the WWE. At the time, there was a lot of politics involved. Vince had a lot of say back in the day about who made it and who didn't, and Ric Flair still preferred the indie circuit. I mean, he was in the WCW, but the WCW was born out of the NWA, which was basically the independent circuit.
Yeah, and I mean in the
and
WCW,
he also had lots of sway in the WCW.
WCW also still allowed to do Flair. One of the things that WWF really wasn't interested in letting any of their talent do, which is wrestle outside of the country. WCW,
Yes.
Flair was able to wrestle in Tokyo. He actually
Yes.
wrestled a huge match that turned into a national event in Puerto Rico against oh man, I'm gonna kick myself later for not remembering this guy's name, but he was like one of their national heroes, and he wrestled Ric Flair, and Rick actually agreed to drop the belt to him, not officially or anything, you know, but yeah, and it caused
Flair,
like riots in Puerto Rico when Ric Flair lost to this guy. It was great.
Ric Flair was always all for putting people over. If they were good and they had a good gimmick, he was all for putting people over. You know, in our last wrestling event, we talked about Sting, and Ric Flair was a big reason why Sting became the man that he is, because he said, "This is the guy. I'm putting him over. This is the way it is."
And it's all about, you know, the attitude behind the curtain really can affect everything and everything around your character on the camera. You know, you're gonna have problems finding guys who are gonna work well with you and put on really good matches if you're an asshole behind the scenes too.
Yeah.
Getting back to the LOD, that was, you know, they weren't too egotistical to take the loss sometimes. There were plenty of times when they took an ass whooping when they obviously should have been able to whoop them.
Yeah.
Whoop up on whoever they were going against.
Yep. Yeah, most of the time, though, in the end, like with their feuds, with the Legion of Doom's feuds, they got beat up, but it was always in anticipation, illegally.
Yeah.
You know, and then they put on the good show at the pay-per-view.
Unless they were heels. There were a couple of good times where they were heels,
Yeah.
and they pulled that off really well, too. They pulled the bad guy shtick off pretty well.
The only problem with that is that eventually they got to the point where whether they were heels or not, people were
everybody cheered them, exactly. You get to about, I think it's like early 90s, and by that point, even if you try and book them as heels, people are going to explode and go off.
Really, yeah. Let's get back to the Road Warriors for just a minute before we expand and go into some more tag team wrestling and why it's important. The Road Warriors were in the first ever War Games match against the Four Horsemen. They teamed with the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, and Nikita Koloff.
Oh, I'll guarantee you money. That's a good one. You want to watch a good match? Go back and watch that one.
That was the first ever. Go back and watch any War Games match. All of the War Games matches are some of the best wrestling matches you're going to see. It's very similar to an Elimination Chamber in the WWE side, which I've seen some Elimination Chambers. They're not bad matches. Some of them, at least the first and second one, the Elimination Chamber, those were pretty good. But yeah,
War Games is a little bit different than that. I mean, I guess, you know, adding different wrestlers in. No, I can see the comparison, absolutely. I think the War Games are a little bit more interesting, especially with the division in the room, because they put 2 rings inside the cage. So the division between the 2 rings and offers up a lot more room for shenanigans. And I think that was really one of the first things that Corvid killed was the wrestling industry, and the AEW had planned a War Games match. It was supposed to be the Elite versus the Inner Circle in a War Games style match. Yeah. And I was really looking forward to that. I got so excited for that, and then when they canceled that killed me, because I was...
They'll try again, I think.
Yeah, but see, they're going to save that for when they can do it in front of a screaming crowd. They're not going to put on a War Games match to even 10% capacity at Daly's place. No, they're going to wait until they can fill, you know, the Staples Center or something like that.
That's going to be a match there. The AEW is going to put on an excellent War Games match.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely.
The Road Warriors also won the NWA 6-man tag team title with the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes.
Oh, very good. A few more accolades I didn't realize Dusty had under his belt.
Back when there was a 6-man tag title.
Something I'd still like to see pulled off well to this day. Apparently it must be something hard to pull off, because most of the major promotions just have never even tried it.
No, because it's too much title. That's what it is. You're talking about 3 guys who have a title then, and then you have a tag team title in addition, and now you got to try and build a 6-man.
A
6-man division.
Whole 6-man division for it.
And it's just, I mean, I wanted to see it for a long time, but I understand why they haven't implemented a 6-man tag team title yet. Those matches are always a lot more complicated to pull off. The risk for injury is always a little bit higher.
I think the E could pull it off. WWE could pull it off, but not with the shows separated like they are. Not with the two brands and Raw versus SmackDown.
And you're never going back. WWE.
I mean, if they were gonna do it, the point was 5 years ago now. Like they should have unseparated the brands like 5 years ago.
If they keep hemorrhaging talent, they might be forced to. But that would be unprecedented at this point for the WWE to go back to a single roster under both brands.
Well,
they've done so long.
I mean, it would be a great reset. It would be a great reboot button, honestly, for them to do, because they need a reboot right now. Like, honestly, like if this is the X-Men universe, if the WWE is the X-Men universe, I'm Paul Feige hitting the fucking reboot button. Like, that is ridiculous what's going on the WWE on this side. I turned on Raw for about 45 minutes. 2-3 days ago, I turned on last Raw. We signed up for Hulu, and Hulu's on Raw. I watched 45 minutes of last Raw, and I could not stand any more of it. Like, I wanted to bash my head into the side of a wall.
Yeah. Yes.
They need a lot more, and one of the things I really think they need to do is refocus on their tag team division. They have let a lot of their tag team division go on. I mean, they're like you said, they're hemorrhaging talent left and right now, so it's not just the tag teams that are taking the hits. It's pretty much, if you're not one of the big dogs, if you're not Roman Reigns, if you're not Brock Lesnar, you're pretty much laid off until the Corvid's done.
The New Day is probably the only one that's got...
I mean, I think there's only even one of the New Day wrestling right now. I think, like, Kofi's injured. Big E is injured. Or no, I think Big E's the one getting his push right now. But I think Kofi's injured. And I forget the other member of the New Day. Xavier Woods. Yeah, I think he's injured or something, too. No, he's on commentary. I saw him running commentary before the pay-per-view. That's the only thing I've seen of
New Day, I guess.
Yeah.
That's the other thing the WWE likes to do. They only like to have their tag teams for so long, and then they separate them. I guess Vince feels that tag teams can only go so far before they're not a draw anymore, which is completely ridiculous because of you. I mean, think about it. If the Legion of Doom would have broken up. You
look at the history of WWE. I mean, they've always treated their tag team division very well. They've never made it a joke of it. I mean, there have been some questionable champions, yes, and there's been some quick tunnel reigns.
I don't know whose decisions they were. It could have been the tag teams deciding to break up, but they have a long history of breaking tag teams up as well.
And again, that could come down to like we were saying about the Legion of Doom. That's one of the things that makes them special is they were willing to stick together so long.
Yes.
That these two guys who were physical and good and on top of their game, were willing and in some cases refused to split up.
Yeah, they were fine with their place in the tag team division.
And that's what they wanted to do. You don't always get that. There's a lot of ego in wrestling, and you have to have a little bit of ego to be a successful wrestler. Yeah. And a lot of times that means, hey, I'm going for the belt. I'm going for the IC. I'm going for the world title. Like, I want that singles belt.
Yeah, no, they were a tag team through and through all the way. The only time they ever wrestled singles is when, for storyline purposes, or if one of them was injured.
But the WCW absolutely treated their tag team division, for the most part, better, minus them putting the belts on Scott Hall and Kevin Nash for so long.
You mean WCW?
Yeah, that's what I said. WCW.
Oh, okay. Yeah, if we're gonna shift to WCW, the problem here. Let me give you some peek behind the curtain here, Curtis. The WCW, Eric Bischoff did that intentionally. He intentionally put the tag team titles on the Outsiders for two reasons. One, because he knew Hulk Hogan was going to be the world champion again, and then for them to have the tag and the world titles made it, made the NWO, gave it much more credibility, obviously. Mm-hmm. But if you go back and watch when the NWO debuted. From that first match, from that first 6-man match, where the Outsiders faced Sting, Lex Luger, and Macho Man, and then Hulk Hogan revealed that he was the third guy.
Yeah.
Eric Bischoff starts taking apart the tag teams. In the weeks to follow, the American males break up. No big loss there, but nonetheless, it's a tag team that broke up. He breaks up the American males. Buff Bagwell, or Marcus Bagwell at the time, joins the NWO and becomes Buff. Scotty Riggs goes back to wrestling the independent circuit shortly after that. The Steiners
very shortly broken up after that, and that's a team that had stayed together for a long time.
And there are some others that he broke up. I mean, he systematically took apart all the tag teams. He had Hall and Nash roll over all the competitive tag teams, and then he systematically took them apart.
I think Harlem Heat was really the only one to survive, and that didn't even survive all the way to the end.
No, Eric Bischoff didn't really, at the time, he didn't really care for tag team wrestling. He didn't like tag team wrestling. I don't understand why. I don't know why that is, but he did not like it, at least at the time. That's why he got rid of it. And I think you have to, because WCW at the time, even though NWO was killing it and everything, the one thing that they did lack through all that was a competitive tag team division. Which is something that the WWE always had. Whether the champions at the time were a little questionable, whether some of the tag teams at the time were questionable, their tag team was always active. The belts were always being defended. It was never, I mean, there were a lot of NWO tag team defense matches that were just jokes. Yes. That were just farces at this point. Yes, absolutely. Winning by tasers, winning by, blatant chair shots with paid off referees. Or just getting independent tag team wrestlers off the circuit to just come so they're all just squash matches. Just so many squash matches, and it's just... I mean, you have to have, at least if you're going to have a tag team division, which I think is imperative in a successful company. You have to. And if you're going to have a tag team division, the belts got to mean something. They got to be defended. They got to have not every match has to be a 5-star match, but you got to put on some damn good matches every now and then. Yeah, I mean, the tag team division is to mix it up from just having one guy in the ring or having special matches or gimmick matches. The tag team gives you something else to have. It gives you many different opportunities with having 4 guys in the ring and around the ring. Different works you can do, different matchups. You can have guy A and guy B wrestle, guy A and guy A wrestle. I mean, the Hardy Boys, the Dudley Boys, and Edge and Christian showed us what tag team wrestling, how exciting tag team wrestling could be. The tag team wrestling was going, it's those guys grew up watching the old guys do it and watching it evolve from what it was, to what it could be, and then they were like, well, we're going to take this even one step further, and we're going to take this to a whole new level, to where by that time, I mean, those guys were tag team artists. The things they did, and not only in the TLC matches, the TLC matches were great. Yeah, but every time they wrestled, even if it's just a regular straight up tag team match, those guys put on, whether it was Edge and Christian versus the Hardys versus the Dudleys, any way you put those 3 teams together, you were going to get a damn fine match. Yes, you were. They were. And great. I mean that alone, just that series of alone, the Edge Christian Dudley Boy era is just that alone shows you why you need a good strong tag division. Yes, that's right. So that you can get teams like those 3, and you get that magic. You know, they didn't all come to the company thinking, oh, we're going to come in and we're going to, it was something that they put it together. They started working together with each other as tag teams and as individuals, and they were like, we've got something here. Yeah. There's a spark here. We all work together really, really well. They all know, and you can tell by the way they wrestle in the ring. They know each other. They've wrestled each other multiple times throughout this entire earth. They know how far they can push each other. They know how to take care of each other, which is something we touched on in our last wrestling episode. Taking care of your opponent is one of the biggest things you can do as a wrestler. I mean, if you're Jeff Hardy, you're not taking that spear off the when you're hanging off the belt, that iconic shot. Yeah. Jeff Hardy hanging off the belt and Edge comes out and spears him. If you're Jeff Hardy, you're not doing that unless you trust Edge to take care of you on the way down, to do the impact and take his share of the impact with you. And to do it so that you can do that without breaking your damn neck. Yeah, even though he got folded in half. Oh, he absolutely got folded in half. But the thing was, it looked way worse than it actually was because Edge did his job. Yeah. If you go back and you watch it slow, you see Edge takes the brunt of his impact on his knees and on his knee pads. Yeah. He lands that perfectly, and then he takes a little bit of the impact with his arm that's not spearing Hardy. By the time Hardy's about to hit, Edge has already taken a good 30% of that impact, which lets Jeff really ragdoll that hit, which makes it look like he got his shit turned inside out. Yeah, Jeff's a good seller. He's a good seller, and he's a damn fine wrestler. He knows how to take the bumps. Yeah, he does. He does know how to do that. Yeah. So tag team wrestling is very important, and the WWE definitely, that's where they started making their comeback against the WCW during the Monday Night Wars. Was absolutely. Tag team divisions, because the WCW definitely started lacking on it. The Harlem Heat was about one of the only tag teams that made it through that whole ordeal. And eventually they broke up too when Booker started wanting his own prime run. Yes. Not even Harlem Heat survived that that tag team meat grinder that was WCW. Yep, you're right. And Harlem Heat is somebody, when we start to put together a top 10 list of tag teams, I would put Harlem Heat on there would absolutely be an argument for Harlem Heat up in there. Yeah. So would you say number 1 would be, would you concur that Legion of Doom would take the number 1 spot as the greatest tag team of all time?
I would definitely concede top 3. I've still got some more research and some more thinking to do before I'm ready to put the number 1. But I definitely believe they're top 3. I don't think you can discount Tully and Arn Anderson from the number 1 spot. They really revolutionized. Honestly, they really got they were a lot of what got started. The dominance, holding the tag team belts for as long as they did through all the territories. Back when it was territories, and they had to convince each and every promoter why you should hold those belts.
That's what led to Hawk and Animal having the first ever War Games match with the Horsemen. It was the feud for the tag titles that led to that.
The Horsemen and honestly, I've still it is newer, and they definitely did stand on the shoulders of giants. But I honestly don't think you can remove the Hardys from the number 1 conversation either. I really don't think you can, and this is why I think we're gonna have our top 3 discussion is gonna be a heated debate, I believe.
Yeah, because I'm sorry, I will put Hardy. I mean, I would definitely put the Legion of Doom at number 1, Arn and Ole at number 2, and then I would definitely make 3, 4, and 5 some combination of the Hardys,
Dudleys, and Edge and Christian.
And Dudleys, yeah. I would definitely... in fact, I would probably even put Dudleys at number 3 because of the amount of title reigns that they have. The amount of title reigns that they have is unparalleled in the tag team division. Not even the Legion. I think only the Legion of Doom and the Dudley. Actually, I don't even think the Legion of Doom has as many as the Dudleys have.
The Dudleys were really absolutely
30
prolific.
Title reigns or something like that.
I mean, and a lot of them did come from ECW. Their title reigns, they swapped belts. ECW swapped belts like it was breakfast.
Yeah, but they're at least... I know that they're at least 12-time... I'll look this up. They're at least 12-time WWE Tag Team Champions.
I mean, they did have a long run in the WWE. They were in the WWE alone for 10 years or more.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they had like 2 separate runs in the WWE, but by the time they were in the WWE... I mean, you're talking 10, 12 years worth of WWE runs to stack up all those title belts. I mean, I'm not arguing against the Dudleys being number 3. I just... I honestly don't think you can completely discount the Hardy Boys. I mean, their longevity, their style, the fact that
they're not a tag
both
team anymore.
I mean, yeah, that's kind of a sore subject for me.
Yeah.
Especially because Jeff just re-signed for so long with the WWE. And Matt signed, at least from what I understand, at least a couple of year deal with AEW. So it's going to be a deal with AEW. So it's going to be at least a number of years before we see them in the ring again together.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying, though. Like, I mean, they don't tag team anymore. They went on their separate individual singles careers. So.
Yeah. I mean, so did the Dudleys, though. I think Bubba Ray is doing a podcast. He doesn't wrestle anymore.
Well, they don't wrestle anymore. They're retired now. They're both retired.
I think Devon still wrestles.
I don't think he does. And even still, we're not talking about one of the Hardys being retired and the other one still wrestling singles. Yeah. They decided to separate once they left the WWE, and they did it a little bit in TNA. And the Dudley Boys are also... the Legion of Doom are also, in addition to all their other stuff, they're also 2-time Hall of Famers, WWE and the wrestling Ring of Honor, the Hall of Honor.
Ring of Honor?
No, the Ring of Honor is the name of a company. I think it's the Hall of Honor is like it was from Sports Observer.
I didn't know they did something like that.
That was your recognition back in the day, because the WWE started their thing, but if you actually go back and look, they started their Hall of Fame, but then they didn't induct anybody into it for like 12 years. If you go back and look, they actually don't have anything for like 12 years.
Yeah.
The Dudley Boys are also 2-time Hall of Famers, both WWE and TNA. So that's why that's what I would do. I would say it's the Legion of Doom, Arn and Ole. The Dudley Boys would have to be 3 just because of the amount of championship reigns. 18 unless you count the NWA, unless you count TNA, and then it becomes 23.
Jeez.
So
that's ridiculous. That is gold upon gold upon gold.
Yes. Oh, and the Dudleys were also inducted into the TNA, now Impact Wrestling Hall of Fame. So they're actually 3-time Hall of Famers.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's I would have to put the Dudley Boys at number 3, and then you could put Edge and Christian and Hardy's as tied for 4th, so they would occupy the 4th and 5th positions there. Because I would probably give the edge to the Hardys because of their chemistry. Edge and Christian were good in the ring, but the Hardy Boys are some unparalleled.
They're just absolutely just
chemistry in the ring.
They're ring poets. Like Jeff Hardy to this day is a poet inside the wrestling ring. Like the things he did, the way I mean, even just beyond the jumping off tall things, the big crowd pops. The way he did the acrobatics, throwing his body through the air in ways we had never seen before. Like Jeff Hardy is a fucking poet.
Yep. And then as far as 6 goes, that's where I would include my first WCW tag team. I would have to put in the Harlem Heat there. And
I wouldn't argue.
And then the Steiners right behind them.
I wouldn't argue that. I think I'd put DX a little bit behind them, and then probably finish.
You mean the New Age Outlaws? Is that who you mean by DX?
No, I mean Shawn and Triple H. I mean Shawn and Triple H as a tag team.
They didn't really. No,
as a faction, they changed the game. Like, you cannot take
away. Tag team very much.
They definitely did tag. They had the belts.
They didn't go after the tag belts until later in their career.
They still held the belts. I mean, Shawn had the world title. Triple H had the Euro belt for a long time. They were titles. I don't know. I still got to put DX up there just because of what they did for wrestling, just because of how they helped save the WWE.
I would include DX on a stage. I would include the New Age Outlaws. I would put the New Age Outlaws at probably. I would probably put the New Age Outlaws at
9 or 10, I'm thinking.
No, or even 8th, even. Because after Harlem Heat and the Steiners.
I mean, I gotta once we get down to 8, 9, 10, I'm thinking like the Outsiders, the New Age Outlaws, and the Hart Foundation. I would finish it all off at number 10 with the Hart Foundation.
Ooh, the Hart Foundation. Ooh, you talking about Brett and Anvil?
Brett and Anvil, yep.
Ooh,
I would finish it off with the Hart Foundation.
I'd probably put them in number 10. The Outsiders at number 9.
Yep.
So let's go over this then.
Because we just did it. We were talking about just starting to put it together, but hey, we just got it done for you. It's exclusive here for you folks today.
Sometimes we are of a similar mind when it comes to this. So we got number 1, Legion of Doom. That's unparalleled. Number 1 has to be the Legion of Doom. It has to be.
Yeah, I can concede that definitely.
Arn and Ole, number 2, absolutely. And then we would put the Dudleys at would make it in at number 3.
I would put Dudleys / Hardys at number 3, but because I think an argument could be made for the Hardys to be number 3. But for expediency, I'm willing to concede.
Yeah, I would hear those arguments, but strictly for the purposes of title reigns, we'll
give it to the Dudleys. Yes,
at number 3. The Hardys would come in at number 4 then. Because of their chemistry, I would put them ahead of Edge and Christian. And then I would put Edge and Christian to round out the top 5 just because of the TLC wars. What those 6 men went through is some of the craziest things
some of the greatest
seen.
Wrestling you'll ever see.
And some crazy stunts. It's unbelievable. And then, all right, so then number 6, we have the Harlem Heat. That's our first WCW tag team.
Followed by the Steiners.
Yeah, Harlem Heat was a great tag team. They are 7-time
Booker T and Stevie Ray.
Yeah, they are 7-time 8-time WCW tag team champions, which is actually the highest in WCW as far as WCW tag team title reigns. The Harlem Heat holds the ticket.
And spawned the greatest move in all of wrestling history, the Spinner-Rooney.
No, they actually
just go ahead. YouTube Spinner-Rooney. I dare you.
The Harlem Hangover, the Heat Seeker, the Big Apple, which is actually Booker T's. Like, I don't know what you want to call that sidekick thing that he does.
Just like an axe sidekick thing, yeah.
Well, he has the axe kick too, though. That's separate. Yeah. But you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, like that big swinging side.
That sidekick. The Big Apple was actually Stevie Ray holding him up on his shoulders and Booker T getting high enough with that sidekick to hit him off Stevie Ray's shoulders.
Damn.
They only did it for a couple of months. That was
I'm
only
sure that's
going to
pull Stevie. That's going to pull Booker's groin at some point. He hits that wrong.
That was only a couple of months that they ran.
Yeah, I get that. That probably was only until the first time that Booker T pulled his groin muscle doing that, and then they stopped that.
It's very possible. So yeah, Harlem Heat comes in at number 6. Then we put the Steiner brothers at number 7,
Absolutely.
who are also coincidentally is at least one of the other tag teams that held, just like the Legion of Doom, that held the AWA, the NWA, the WWE, and the WCW tag titles. It's the Legion of Doom and the Steiner brothers, as far as I know, are the only two teams.
The only reason I'd say they're not a little bit higher than they would be is, again, because they just got steamrolled so many times by the Outlaws.
Yeah, the longevity. They stopped
tagging. Big Papa Pump.
WCW, they split up. And
Big Papa Pump started really hitting the juice and got his own singles career going on, and it was just over at that point.
Very flourishing singles
career. He did.
He's a multi-time world heavyweight champion in WCW and in
I still see his best work as part of the tag team though.
Yes.
Like honestly, if you look back at Big Papa Pump, Scott Steiner's career,
he's one of the few guys who actually
he was better as a tag
transition from the tag team to a singles career because he was the world champion.
Yeah,
but he was always a heel. People did not want to cheer him once he broke off the Steiner brothers.
Nope.
People absolutely refused to cheer for him.
Hated him.
Yep, he could never ever make a face turn again. He had to be the heel constantly.
And I just think he worked better as part of a tag team. I think his best in ring and on the mic work is when he's part of the Steiner brothers. Personally, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The Steiner brothers. But definitely
between their longevity and just them, almost constantly getting rolled over by the NWO when it came to the time for the WCW and after the Outsiders came in. It just I just can't place them too much higher at all.
No, that's where I would also put them at number 7. And then who do we say number?
We said DX and Outsiders is 8 and 9.
Yeah, let's see who would be higher than what there.
I got to give it to DX because they ended up winning. NWO. They kind of, I don't want to say they single-handedly killed WCW, but they had a lot to do. Nash, Hall. They had a lot to do with the downfall of WCW, so I got to give it to DX. Triple H and Shawn are still to this day doing their thing. Shawn is still on weekly WWE TV. No, but they're still in the business and they're still doing their thing.
I guess you could make the same argument for the Outsiders, really.
They're still doing their thing. They are still in the business doing their thing to this day.
My only counter argument would be how long the Outsiders held the tag titles, but I guess I can't really include that because Eric Bischoff was dissecting the tag division at the same time.
I got it. I see. I got to give DX 8, the Outsiders 9, finish it all, round it all off with the Hout Foundation.
You conceded to me earlier, so for the sake of rounding out the list, we'll say, all right, 8 is DX, 9 is the Outsiders,
and finish it all.
We would put
finish it all up with the Hart Foundation.
With the Hart Foundation at number 10, then that's the Anvil and Brett, not Owen and the Bulldog.
Not that there's nothing wrong with Owen and Bulldog.
No, I'm sorry, Anvil and Bulldog.
Not that there's. I think it was. No, I think Owen and Bulldog did do it too, but I think they all kind of did the Hart Foundation thing for a while. We're talking OG Hart Foundation, the one that started
when they
it all.
First came in.
Anvil and Bret Hart.
And when they were actually a tag team,
And that's Jim the Anvil Neidhart if you're YouTube and anything. If you're interested in anything we're saying here. Most of these older matches, at least, if not clips, if not the entire matches, are available on YouTube. I think it's over 20 years, I believe, the copyright runs out. And you can pretty much put it up on YouTube. So a lot of the older stuff that we're talking about, a lot of the stuff with the AWA and with the original NWA, a lot of the Horseman matches, Ric Flair's early stuff, a lot of that's on YouTube if you're ever interested in YouTube and some of these matches we're telling you about.
Yeah, as much as I hate to plug them, the WWE Network does have a very extensive collection from back in the day.
Hey, listen, we can set this straight right now. Current WWE is horrible.
Yeah.
Current WWE is just it's hard to watch, honestly, at sometimes. But you cannot deny the WWE's catalog. The WCW stuff, the past stuff in the 80s, 90s, 2000. You cannot deny their content.
That's one thing that Vince McMahon always had. He always knew that content was going to be the key to the longevity of his company. He always wanted to own his own content.
That WWE Network is worth it just for that, to be able to go back and watch the old stuff. I usually subscribe to the WWE Network once a year around WrestleMania because I'll still watch WrestleMania. No matter how bad the WWE gets, WrestleMania is an event. WrestleMania, it's like the Super Bowl. I'll always watch WrestleMania.
WrestleMania
even if I don't,
is a show. It's a show.
Even if I don't know the wrestlers, they always do promos and little vignettes before the matches that can get me caught up in what's going on.
The WWE, with their longevity, they've had these things and they have been the standard for so long. That's why they have, when you talk about the Hall of Fame and past, that's what you're talking about, the WWE.
And once a year, paying for it for once a month, I watch WrestleMania, and then I'll spend the rest of that month going back through the old catalog, watching the old matches that I wanted to see again, and
Vince McMahon said
it's worth it just for that.
Vince McMahon said in 1990 he was eventually going to launch a 24/7 wrestling channel. Every single person who he said that to thought he was absolutely insane, that he was crazy, that was the craziest idea anybody ever heard of, and now he has his own streaming service.
First time you told me that, I thought it was a great idea. I thought it was going to be like a straight up channel, like TNN, USA. I thought it was going to be, I'd just flip over to channel 103 and it would be WWE channel.
They did have
but
that
the
briefly,
streaming, but it didn't go over real. Yeah, it didn't go over real. I remember that.
Plus, it went to streaming. I mean, he saw
the
streaming thing happen quick, and
as soon as Netflix perfected
now we're going to this.
As soon as Netflix perfected it, it was just a matter of time before everybody went that route. I honestly believe streaming is the future.
You're fired.
Oh, God. Don't even get me started. I actually just watched a YouTube video the other day about the evolution of The Undertaker's Ministry of Darkness. And one of the things they touched on was the night that Vince McMahon fired Stone Cold for the first time, you know, coining that "you're fired" catchphrase. And I just had to I think my eyes rolled back into the back of my head for about 3 or 4 minutes. I must have looked like The Undertaker.
Oh, man, that's funny. Yeah, Vince McMahon had some good ideas, but I think he's just been in it too long now. I think he's got to that man should take a 5-year vacation, and then if he wants to come back and do some stuff, come back and do some stuff.
I think the WWE's problems begin and end with Vince McMahon. For better or for worse, begin and end with Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
Whether Triple H or whoever's going to take over after him is going to do any better with it, I don't know. But
how do you give it to Triple H? How do you not give it to Shane?
I mean, I don't think Shane wants to. Shane's happy being an on-screen character. Shane's happy being an on-screen character.
He's something with the corporation.
I mean, they've all got a title.
Stephanie McMahon's the chief branding officer, and she's also in charge of the women's division.
They've all got titles and everything, but I'm pretty sure, like, once you get behind the scenes of it all, Shane just prefers to be an on-screen character.
I think it has something to do with their social media and their media department, I think, actually.
I mean, honestly, it's just, like I'm saying, Shane just seems to be content being an on-screen character.
Triple H seems to be the guy that wants the reins of the creative.
Exactly. You know, and he's been doing it for so long.
Of course, I mean Stephanie McMahon.
Well, I mean, they really truly are a power couple. I honestly believe they work together 100%. Like, I believe they both wear the pants in the family. They both carry the wallet. They work well together as a team. Despite everything they put on TV, I believe that there's some power and there's some longevity there. I think that if you truly gave the reins to Stephanie and Triple H and to whatever, it
might get better. Yeah,
it might get a little bit better. But but at the end of the day, right now, everything goes through Vince. Vince signs off and agrees or denies everything, and that's where the problem is right now. Vince has lost the ball just a little bit.
Yes, he has.
Including his tag teams. The tag team division right now is in tatters.
Whereas in AEW, it's very strong.
It's just flourishing. It's absolutely very strong tag team division.
Some great tag team.
Putting great tag team, amazing matches.
Every time I see the AEW, every time I watch them, every time I think about their roster, I'm thinking this is just it's WCW in a new name. I mean, it's not obviously.
Well, yeah, but it's got. I think the AEW has protections built in that will keep them from making the mistakes that WCW did.
Obviously organizationally they're very different from WCW, but I'm talking about the product that they're producing.
They learned a lot. They watched and they took the things that worked from WCW and adapted them to their company, but they're obviously not giving they're allowing creative input but without complete creative control.
Yeah, I think it's freedom.
Like,
I think it's the freedom
Tony
of letting
Khan,
some of their wrestlers do things, cut promos, let them decide what to do in their matches.
Yes. I think there's a fine line. There's a fine line between allowing the wrestlers complete creative control like WCW did and what Vince does with he's completely authoritarian.
Where he's a be-all
when you allow your wrestlers, when you allow these guys who are performers at heart to have a say in what they're performing, but you still have somebody there being a filter, being like, no, that's not going to work, or yes, that works. But it's always the classic yes and.
Yeah, there's got to be some wrestlers who aren't going to be able to make their own gimmicks up, but who are great in ring,
or who don't want to. Help. Yeah, and who need that guy to be like, you know what, you're going to go out and you're going to team with this guy.
Yeah, and I believe that there are some performers who still need a script to do that. Like, I'm sure scripting for some of the wrestlers who have trouble coming up with things on the fly would help them, even when they're delivering promos and stuff. I'm not saying that it has to be open and free for everybody, but you should work with the individual wrestler. What does he need?
What do you think will work for your character? You're playing this character. You're the guy that's out there in front of the camera. What do you think works? What doesn't work?
That's why you still have a writing team to come up with characters and to come up with character development for the people who aren't good writers or who aren't good at coming up with ideas.
And I think AEW has learned that lesson. I think they've watched what Vince has done with his authoritarian total control. They watched what WCW when they just let... I mean, and even in some ways TNA, because Dixie Carter was just letting the wrestlers do whatever they wanted. She was just throwing money around. I mean, it's not Dixie's anymore. They shut down that current iteration and reopened under new ownership and everything. But, the original TNA, when it was Total Nonstop Action or whatever it stood for at the time, And that, that was Dixie was just letting the wrestlers do whatever. She was throwing money around. She had Hulk Hogan. She had Ric Flair come in. She was just throwing money and letting the wrestlers do whatever they wanted to. And it failed, just like it's always going to whenever the rooster rules down a house.
Yeah.
But you get somebody like Tony Khan who is controlling the controlling the purse strings, controlling the money, and he's that filter. He's there to be like, yes, oh, give me this. You want more and more? Give me this. Okay, no, we're going to stop right there, and we're not going to do that part.
Yeah.
But let's keep going with what you had said earlier, because that was really good.
Yeah, and he also lets people, that's what you got to do. Sometimes if a wrestler has an idea, even if you don't think it's good, let him go out and try it. If it fails, so what? They boo, they don't respond. You write them a new story next week. Try it.
Exactly. No, I think AEW is learning a lot of the lessons from the other companies that have gone. They're learning a lot of the things from those that have come before. Like we had said in our first wrestling one, I really like the direction the company's going, and I see nothing but bright skies ahead for them. And I think one of the main things that will help propel them and help lead them into further and expanded success is their impressive depth at the tag team division. You go in there, you're going to see 2-3 tag teams every Dynamite, guaranteed. 2-3 tag matches every Dynamite, guaranteed. And more often than not, those are going to be two of the greatest matches you see all night.
Yep, and the WWE is just hemorrhaging people. They're hemorrhaging ideas.
Like, I honestly can't even tell you who the tag team champions are on Raw right now. And I literally just watched like 40 minutes to an hour of Raw just a couple of days ago. I never saw I saw the women's tag team champions. I know Bayley and Sasha. Oh yeah, they have a women's tag team championship right now.
For that, but I mean, I wanted a wrestling company to get a roster big enough to actually have a women's tag team.
I mean, you can get the network and go back and watch the last year, but I mean, I can sum it up for you.
No,
Bayley and Sasha running a year-long friends thing that is leading to a very obvious split that happened at the last pay-per-view.
Of course, because they've only done that 125 times.
It's literally what the entire last year of a good chunk of Raw has been, from what I'm understanding.
See, that's how and that's the problem with WWE. That's how almost every tag team that has ever been incarnated has to end up facing each other and falling apart.
Well, I mean, they made it obvious because Bayley was the Raw Women's Champion and Sasha was the SmackDown Women's Champion. Like, they made it obvious where this was headed, like, right from the beginning. It was just more of a, like, how long is it going to go before this implodes?
Well, I mean,
because they were heels too. They were heels.
From what I understand, I mean, Bayley being a heel, because
oh yeah, she dyed her hair black the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Went like full psycho crazy, snap.
She's good.
She is very good. I'm not like this whole like talking dismissive of the storyline just because I saw it coming. Bayley is very good at what she does. She's great in the ring. She's great on the mic.
Which is why they just made probably the women's tag titles, because from what I understand, Bayley and Sasha are like the workers of the women's division.
Oh, absolutely.
They are the workers.
They are absolutely killing it. I mean, Charlotte Flair's up there too. Like, you can't take anything away from Charlotte Flair. She's a worker too. She's there all day doing her thing. But yeah, Bayley is really good. They did a heel flip with her. She dyed her hair black and she like flipped out.
Or maybe it wasn't a shoot interview. Maybe it was a scripted shoot interview. Maybe that was her heel turn then, when she was dissing all the divas in the ring.
Something like that, yeah.
Like she
she called them out for getting injured all the time.
Yeah, she just went off on all the divas.
Yeah, calling them sloppy wrestlers. Calling them sloppy wrestlers because of constantly getting injured when she's there doing the work 24/7. Yeah, I think that was definitely a shoot interview with a little bit of truth to it. Those words were a little bit jagged.
Yeah. Oh, what it is? Because because it was on a big thing. It was on a thing that I watched. There was a bunch of different, I guess, shoot promos when wrestlers went off script or whatever. And I guess from what I understand, Bayley, because I looked that up afterwards a little bit, I guess Vince McMahon was waiting to give her a hug after she finished that interview.
Yeah.
Backstage. Yeah, waiting to give her a hug after.
I have no bloody doubt. Charlotte Flair, throughout all the years she's been wrestling, has had one injury, and she was missed a total of like a month and a couple of weeks. Charlotte Flair is one of the hardest workers you will find in the room. She works hurt. She's all about finishing the match. Even like she is an amazing worker.
Natalia Neidhart, by the way, is the daughter of Jim the Anvil Neidhart.
Yep.
In case you
and apparently is a bit of a diva backstage.
Yeah, that's surprising to me. I mean, I thought she would have been, growing up.
Apparently
with the Anvil,
Apparently she very much knows she is a heart and uses that, and she is a heart and deserves the respect of the hearts.
Yep. They all seem to have a chip on their shoulders, don't they? The first generation, Brett and Owen and Bulldog and Anvil, they trained in the dungeon. They're allowed to have a chip on their shoulders.
And Brett got fucked by the WWE, but I mean, in hindsight, it was definitely his own doing as well. Like you don't tell the owner of the company when and how you're gonna drop his belt.
Oh, he didn't really do that though. He just said, I don't want to drop it in Canada. I don't want to drop it in Toronto, or where were they? Toronto, Montreal.
Yeah, he wanted to drop it the following night on Raw.
Yeah.
You don't do a major title drop like that on a Raw. You do it at the pay-per-view.
No, you could.
Especially doing it in Canada because that's all anybody's going to talk about for the next 3 months.
No, you could. You could have.
Nah, I disagree.
If you wanted to.
I think that was Brett being a diva. In my opinion, now that I've watched it, we've all watched the documentaries. Bret Hart Wrestling with Shadows. There's also another. You get a little bit of a version of it through the Undertaker's Last Ride series. He talks about the night the screw job went down and what he saw from his side. Shawn Michaels has spoken about it on several different Everybody's talked about the Montreal screw job.
Yeah.
You can get all the different information out there after watching it all and taking it all in. I absolutely see from Vince's point of view.
Oh, I can still see his point of view. Absolutely. If it was my company and my champion was telling me no, I'd be like, okay.
Especially, less than a month after Alundra Blaze took the women's title and dumped it on trash on WCW live television.
Yeah, he did get burned on that side. So yeah, you're right. He absolutely could.
It was less than a month after that. Yeah, that's where Vince was coming from. He's like, what if Brett decides to do what Alundra Blaze did? What if the next time I see my belt? What if the next time I see my belt, it's on Nitro getting dumped into a dumpster or something like that?
Or even worse, he defends it on Nitro.
What if Bischoff had the money too? That's what he did to Alundra. He's like, I'll give you X amount of money to bring that belt with you on Nitro, and she was like, sure, whatever. Yeah. They never took it from me. They obviously don't care. What if Eric opened up that Billionaire Ted's books and was like, I'll give you $5 million to bring that belt onto Monday Nitro when you premiere.
Yep. And
I absolutely understand Vince's side of that. That's your belt. That's your company.
Yeah.
You can't let that happen. No, absolutely not. And not only did he save his belt and save the possibility, he also gained a lifelong wrestler and supporter and backer in Shawn Michaels that night. And
that was the birth of the McMahon persona.
Exactly. Made him millions of dollars, the Mr. McMahon persona. That night was one of the best decisions Vince McMahon ever made. And I understand Bret Hart feels salty about that, but that's the business.
Yeah, I can see his point of view also. Absolutely. I can see it from both their sides. Absolutely. That's why I never really said, the Bret did get screwed, or it's pretty.
There's no lie in that. Bret got screwed. Bret absolutely got screwed, but honestly, he did it to himself.
Yeah.
By refusing to drop the belt, by refusing to do the work, by refusing to job to Michaels that night, he did it to his own bloody self.
Yeah. Yes, he did. But we got way off the tag team subject on that.
Well, that's how most of these episodes go. We start on some other things, and I think the listeners kind of appreciate that. It's a very organic conversation. This shit's not scripted.
Yes. No, we're definitely not scripted around here. And in case you didn't see it, we have the European title.
Oh, yes.
Curtis Arneski just purchased himself a European title.
The newest to my belt collection right here. This is a European 2-size replica title off the WWE official shop itself.
So it's double the size?
No, it's just two, not like two, the number 2 size. It's replica, like 1-for-1 replica. It's the exact size of the title you see on TV. The plates are about 4 millimeters thick. In belt talk, that's pretty thick in 4 millimeter plates. It's definitely got a good bit of weight to it.
It's heavier. Excuse me, let me rephrase that. It's not like heavy, but it's heavier than you think it is.
It's got the green backing, and TV accurate title, little WWE symbol and everything right there. I highly recommend it. It's been an amazing addition to my collection. It looks really great up on the wall. If anybody's looking to get into collecting these belts, or fans, if there's any wrestling fans out there who have been thinking about it, got to give a shout out to the WWE shop. They're on sale right now. All the replica belts are $100 off. So now is definitely the time to do it. That's why I jumped on this one. Saw it was on a pretty decent sale, so I couldn't say no.
Vince, we'll talk about royalties later.
Yeah, hit me up, Vince. Let me get that cut. But no, actually, I just got shipping information today. I have a AEW replica coming, so I hope to do an unboxing with you on that here in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
That will definitely be a boiling point.
Yeah, because that one's
the unveiling of the AEW big platinum title. Whenever Curtis gets it.
This is pretty big here. Let me just I'll put my this is just a regular like Monster Energy soda size can.
And this is my tablet.
Pretty sizable belt. These things are not tiny, and big platinum's easily gonna be this plus another size.
2 or 3 times.
Yeah, I would say maybe double the size of this thing. But yeah, if anybody's looking to get into into collecting them, into the hobby of belt collection, WWE Shop is running a lot of really good sales right now, and hopefully I'll have a few more here over the next. Well, pretty much whenever I add one to the collection, I'll bring it in and show it off to you guys. Yeah.
On the Boiling Point.
I got a few more I've got my eyes on. There's a couple of Facebook groups out there where people buy and sell and trade. So I've got a few other ones I've got my eyes on. I've got this really beautiful, the white strapped Intercontinental belt. I've got an eye on. I'm looking at it. So.
Well, now that we've promoted the WWE Shop and the AEW Shop, let's promote.
Come on, Vince. At least give us like a year free of WWE Network or something.
Let's help me get paid so that we can continue doing the podcasts. If you want I'm wearing a JDEDESIGNz t-shirt. If you didn't see it, so JDEDESIGNz t-shirts now available. You can get them on bonfire.com/JDEDESIGNz apparel. Of course, you can follow the Boiling Point Podcast. We're on Facebook at the Boiling Point Podcast.
Find most of the links there. I'm sure the link to the t-shirts and
yes,
the
JDEDESIGNz
sites.
In the description as well. And then, of course, you can go to facebook.com/JDEDESIGNz to buy stuff as well. So please do all of that so we can keep the podcast going. And I think that was a good show, Curtis. I think we're going to wrap it up there, everybody. Thank you for tuning in.
Wrap it up there and call it an evening.
Yes, we're going to have Curtis on again soon. If not next week, he'll be on again in 2 weeks when we will be discussing Star Trek.
Yes, the work of the Master Gene Roddenberry himself.
Yes, that's what we're going to discuss next with Curtis, is we're going to go over Star Trek. And then, of course, in the next day or two, keep your eyes peeled, because I will have the long-awaited Gavin Whitcomb on the podcast.
Yes.
Everybody's going to be waiting and love to hear what he has to say. Not everybody, I'm sure, but he's always knows what he's talking about, and that's the most important thing. He's educated, and we're going to have a good discussion in the next day or two here as soon as we have him on the show, and then Curtis will be back.
Absolutely.
So, thank you for tuning in. Continue to watch. Share it out, of course, please. And
shout it out. Share the podcast.
And until next time, we are going to leave you with this.